Hey guys, so I was on OAN last night talking about the different gun control and anti-Second Amendment measures being implemented around the country and how politicians are using the coronavirus as an excuse. So I want to play that here and then react to it and kind of explain some of the thinking a little bit more at the end that we couldn't get to in this segment. But before I play it, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We've just hit 200 subscribers, which is great. We want to grow the channel as big as possible, so please make sure that you hit the subscribe button.
Our free and equal story tonight. Gun stores across the country are being threatened with shutdown amid government-ordered lockdowns. For example, the mayor of Champaign, Illinois, issued an executive order giving herself the power to stop firearm sales. The state of California's recent lockdown deems gun stores non-essential business and therefore mandates that they close down. And in San Jose, California, the mayor ordered the closure of a local gun store that stayed open, saying, and I quote, "We can't have people buying guns," end quote. It is truly terrifying to see governments try to stifle our Second Amendment rights due to this crisis. With me now to break down the implications for you, Advocacy Director of Conservative Daily, Max McGuire. Max, good to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, good to see you.
All right, this is insane to me. In the state of California, gun shops are being deemed non-essential, but abortion clinics, they're being deemed essential business.
Yeah, it's strange worlds. These are strange times, right? In California, it's even more complicated because there's a 10-day waiting period in order to take a gun home. So right now, everyone who's bought a gun over the last 10 days, what happens to them, right? We've seen the lines stretch around the stores of people rushing out. And these usually aren't gun owners. These aren't people who already have firearms. These are people who see what's going on around them and want to have a gun to protect their families. Or maybe they have a shotgun and want a handgun instead. So these are a lot of first-time gun owners, and they're being turned away. They've purchased a gun, but now as long as these gun stores stay closed, anyone who's bought one in the last 10 days won't be able to bring them home.
Right. So this is an interesting conundrum. So let me back up just a second. The FBI is actually threatening to close down background checks, and this is kind of the crux of this issue. So, for example, if you tried to purchase a gun on, say, Monday of this week in the state of California, you have this mandated waiting period while your background check goes through, and because liberals are insane. But if gun stores are being closed, they're going to have no way to get their gun, because there's also a law. Talk to me about the 3-day fail-safe, because that, I think, is critical before we even move on to the next point.
Sure. A bit of history. In 1994, when the Brady bill passed, that's the background check bill for guns that are bought through gun stores, Republicans insisted on a fail-safe. So if we're going to require gun owners to submit to a background check, then the government has to perform the background check. Otherwise, the government would be able to just refuse to do it and block the gun sale from going through. So this fail-safe, the liberals now call it the Charleston loophole. They call it a loophole. It was a compromise. But what it says is if the FBI cannot get its act together and cannot process the background check in 3 days, then the purchaser is able to take it home anyway, with or without an all clear from the FBI. So the challenge is that the regulations that were put into effect don't always mirror the intentions behind the statute. The FBI is now saying that if the state offices that they rely on to do the background checks are closed, then that day will not count as one of the days in that 72-hour period. So basically, if you buy a gun in a state and that state decides to close its state police or whatever office or department that handles the background check inquiries, the FBI is saying, well, that doesn't count as one of the days. So it really flies in the face of in the spirit of the compromise, which was if you're going to force people to have a background check, you can't just refuse to do the background check. So it flies in the face of that. But
right, really but this also, if I may interject here, this is also where these gun owners who have purchased a gun in the past week, where they lose out on their ability to exercise their right, because they're in this waiting period, waiting for their background check. If the FBI refuses to do this, they should be able to procure the firearm in 3 days because of this fail-safe. But if the gun stores are simultaneously closed down, then they have actually waited for nothing. They should be allowed to get it because their background check didn't go through because of the FBI. But if the gun stores are closed at the mandate of the state government, then they're just left out to dry.
Yeah, they are. And it becomes even more ridiculous when you see what the mayor of San Jose was saying. This isn't about public health. This isn't about stopping people from congregating and spreading disease. This is him saying we already have people panic buying food. We can't have them panic buying guns, right? This is a gun control initiative being used. They're using this crisis to stop people from buying guns.
I mean, he admitted
These are first-time gun buyers. Yeah, he completely admitted it.
He admitted that he doesn't want people buying guns. He didn't say, we don't want gun ranges to further the spread of COVID-19. We have deemed all non-essential businesses closed. He literally said, I mean, you quoted him exactly. He said, we are having panic buying right now for food. The one thing we cannot have is panic buying of guns, end quote. That's San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo. That's really shocking. People should understand that, and I've said this all week, that Democrats are exploiting a crisis. They are using this crisis to push their own political policies. You can see it happening right in front of your face. The mayor of Champaign, Illinois, we've mentioned this several times on the show this week because it's so egregious. She signed an executive order giving herself power to stop firearm sales and ammunition sales, as if that has anything to do with COVID-19. There was not a single case of that virus in her entire county. She wasn't shutting other things down. She was just targeting firearms, which have nothing to do with viruses.
Yeah, and we saw New Orleans, Louisiana implement a similar kind of order claiming to have that power. We've seen horrible things happen in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, where police officers went door to door to collect people's firearms, saying that we're not going to let people have firearms if they're going to stay in the city after the hurricane. We've seen how bad this can get. And listen, we're going to have discussions over what businesses count as essential and which don't. It's pretty funny. This week, GameStop is trying to argue that they're an essential business because they sell keyboards and mice that help people work from home. It's laughable. No one needs to buy an action figure or a video game from them during this.
I think it's awesome.
The fact that they're saying that gun stores are non-essential just tells you how little they support the Second Amendment, which we've known all along.
Well, it shows their political agenda for the reason, too. I mean, not only did this mayor of San Jose admit it, but it also shows for the reason that I brought up at the very beginning of this segment. They deem gun stores non-essential, even though that is essential to exercising your Second Amendment right. But they say abortion clinics are essential, even though abortion is never medically necessary. It is never necessary to save a woman's life. Therefore, it is elective. And that is not something that is essential to our economy, to industry, to life, to your well-being, to anything. It shows that they are willing to prioritize their own political policies and to squash political policies or our inherent human rights codified and protected in our Constitution just because they don't like those rights. Max, I appreciate you bringing this to everybody's attention. Thank you for being on the show.
Okay, so that was the interview. I think I was able to hit most of the points home. So this is a really important topic. Obviously, we've all figured out over the last week that our constitutional rights aren't nearly as guaranteed as they are in a normal circumstance. So the government has much more leeway during a declared state of emergency to violate Americans' rights than they would otherwise have. Like in states like, we didn't get to bring this up because we were a little crunched for time with the segment, but like in states like Pennsylvania, for example, in Pennsylvania, you only need a license to carry a firearm in what they call cities of the first class, which is Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, though I don't know if Pittsburgh is still technically qualifies because their population decline might have put them over the edge, but I think Pittsburgh still counts. But anyway, everywhere else in Pennsylvania, you're allowed to carry a gun openly without a license, except Pennsylvania law says that during a declared state of emergency, open carry without a license is illegal. So you have people all around the state who live outside of Philadelphia or Pittsburgh who normally do not have to have a license to carry a firearm on their person, in their car, or on their person openly. During this state of emergency, that right under Pennsylvania law goes away. So there's big complications all across the country, just like this, where gun rights are restricted because of the way that these states of emergency are declared. But with this is completely egregious. This is a mayor in San Jose closing down a gun store because he doesn't want panic buying of guns. Not, as we mentioned in this segment, not because he thinks that people shouldn't congregate to spread the disease, but just because he doesn't want people panic buying guns. And the most important thing about all of this is that these are largely first-time gun buyers. They are people who might have a 22-inch barrel over-under shotgun, right? That has 2 shots. And they say, hey, that's really not the best way to defend myself and my family in a condo or an apartment or even a house. I need to get a handgun or maybe a different kind of pump shotgun that's a little bit more manageable inside. So there's most of the people who are lining up for these gun sales are not people like me or like other people watching this who have firearms already, have ammunition, have emergency supplies stocked up just in case something like this happens. A lot of the people lining up at gun stores are actually liberals, believe it or not, who are afraid. They're afraid. They see what's happening and they realize that with police departments already stretched so thin, no one will be there to protect them if things start getting worse. So we're all going to have these debates. in the coming weeks and months and probably years over whether the response to the Chinese coronavirus was legitimate or whether these government efforts went too far and violated Americans' rights. Now, we know that certain rights are being violated right now in the name of public health. You have the right under the First Amendment to peaceably assemble in public, but states are banning people from gathering in groups of 10 or more, or in some cases 50 or more people in public. So obviously that you cannot enjoy that right to its fullest right now. The Constitution also says that you have the right to a fair and speedy trial. That's hard to get when courthouses are literally closing down preemptively to stop the spread of the virus. So you can't say that you have a right to a jury before your peers when all of the people who have been called for jury duty are getting notices to stay home and not come in, right? So we'll have those debates, and where the government is determined to have gone too far, if people are legitimately harmed, then yeah, there'll probably be some monetary damages that will be given to people who've had their rights violated. But when it comes to the Second Amendment, we cannot afford to wait weeks or months or over a year for these issues to be worked out. This is a situation of life and death. These are people who are afraid for their lives, have a right to purchase a gun. They are law-abiding, and because of these governors and mayors' actions, they're stopping them from getting guns that they've already bought. Right? It's not whether or not they can buy guns from now on. It's the idea that they've purchased a gun, they've been waiting patiently, and the gun stores are being closed before they can pick them up. It's a big deal. In Katrina, as we talked about on the segment, and after Hurricane Katrina, the New Orleans police, and actually including some federal agents as well, were helping them, went door to door and started collecting people's guns. The police superintendent at the time said that he didn't want any guns on the streets. Now, as we've always known, when you hear gun control advocates say we got to get guns off the streets, they actually mean we got to get guns out of your house. You shouldn't be able to own these guns to protect yourself either. So after Katrina, a lot of people lost their firearms. They were confiscated by force, taken away from them. They were forced to fight back against looters and robbers without any guns at all. And eventually a court did jump in and overrule this and force the city to start giving them their guns back. But at that point, it'd been a month. The city actually claimed that they lost a lot of the guns, and other ones, because of the conditions with flooding, a lot of the other guns were rusted to the point where they were either unusable or had lost all of their value by the time the police department was forced to give them back to the people. So we really cannot afford to wait for a response like that. We cannot afford to wait a month, as was the case with Katrina, before a federal judge will intervene or before Congress intervenes. Remember, the 14th Amendment gives Congress not only the power, but the obligation, the responsibility to intervene when the states are found to be violating citizens' rights, when the states are found to be violating our liberties. This is clearly the case. So Congress has the power under the 14th Amendment to stop this from happening, to prevent mayors and governors from closing down gun stores in the name of public safety. Congress could do that right now, but it's up to all of us to demand it. So here at Conservative Daily, we're calling on everyone to reach out to your congressman. We have a couple of campaigns ourselves that I'll link to in the description below, where you can take part or just reach out to your congressman directly by phone, by email, write a letter, however you want. Make sure that they understand that you value this, you care about this. And if they aren't going to honor their oath, remember, all these people swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. That includes the Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights. If you include in your correspondence that if these people are not willing to honor their oath and to ensure that all of our Second Amendment rights are upheld during this Chinese coronavirus response, if they are not willing to do that, and if they're willing to just let these abuses happen, then they will be removed from office, right? Make sure that you reach out to your congressman. Again, we have the links in the description to do it through our system or do it yourself. Make sure you're reaching out to your congressman and you're making them know, you're letting them know that if they turn their back on us in this time, that they will regret it. So again, great segment. I enjoyed it a lot. Had a lot of fun with it. Wish it was longer because there's a ton to talk about. But it's so great to see organizations like OAN shining a light on this, because the intricacies of federal firearm law and regulations, right? FBI, ATF regulations, they're not getting play anywhere on the news. So it's great to see an organization like OAN lead on this effort. So again, please make sure you subscribe below. We just hit 200 subscribers, which is great. We relaunched the YouTube channel, so we hit 200 subscribers in a week. So please hit the subscribe button. It'll really help us out a lot, and hit the bell for notifications so you can get updates when new videos like this drop. Thank you.